My grandparents lived in Japan. Every summer, my parents and I would visit them. They lived in a small village with a big backyard. I loved playing there during the summer. When we arrived, my grandparents always greeted me warmly. I was their only grandchild, so they spoiled me. The last time I saw them was when I was 8 years old. As usual, my parents booked a flight to Japan, and we drove from the airport to my grandparents' house. They were very happy to see me and had prepared lots of small gifts. After a few days, my parents left for a short trip elsewhere in Japan, leaving me in my grandparents' care. One day, I was playing in the yard. My grandparents were inside. It was a hot summer day, and I lay down on the grass to rest. I was watching the clouds, enjoying the sunshine and the gentle breeze. Just as I was about to get up, I heard a strange sound. I couldn't tell what it was or where it came from. It sounded like someone was muttering to themselves in a deep male voice. I looked around, trying to find the source of the sound. And then I saw something at the top of the fence at the end of the yard. It was a straw hat, but it wasn't resting on the fence, it was behind it. That's where the strange voice was coming from. Then, the hat started to move. Someone was wearing it. The hat stopped at a gap in the fence and I saw a face. It was a woman, but the fence was about 8 feet tall, around 5 meters. I was shocked to see a woman that tall. I thought she might be on stilts or maybe wearing some kind of giant platform shoes. Then she kept walking and disappeared, along with the strange sound. Confused, I went inside. My grandparents were drinking tea in the kitchen. I sat down and told them what I had seen. They didn't seem to care much until I mentioned the strange sound. The moment I said it, they froze. My grandmother's eyes widened, and she covered her mouth with her hand. My grandfather's face turned deadly serious. He grabbed my arm tightly and said, "This is very serious. Tell me, exactly how tall was she?" "About as tall as the fence in the yard," I replied, starting to feel scared. He asked me question after question, where she stood, how long she was there, what she did, whether she saw me. I tried my best to answer. Then he suddenly ran into the hallway and made a phone call. I couldn't hear what he said. I looked at my grandmother and saw she was trembling. My grandfather came back and said to her, "I have to go out for a bit. Stay with the boy. Don't take your eyes off him, not even for a second." "What's going on, Grandpa?" I cried. He looked at me sadly. "You've been noticed by Hachishakusama," he said. Then he hurried out, got in his car, and drove away. I turned to my grandmother. "Who's Hachishakusama?" I asked. "Don't worry," she said, her voice shaking. "Your grandfather will protect you." While we sat in the kitchen, she explained. She said that long ago there was a dangerous spirit haunting this region. They called it Hachishakusama, which means 8-foot tall woman in Japanese, because of her great height. She appeared as a tall woman who made a deep, male-sounding voice that went. Each time someone saw her, she looked a little different. Some said she appeared as an old woman in a kimono, others said she looked like a young girl wrapped in a white burial cloth. But one thing was always the same: her height and that strange voice. A long time ago, she was captured by monks who sealed her inside an old ruin outside the village using 4 guardian statues called Jizo, placed in the north, south, east, and west to trap her. But somehow she escaped. The last time she appeared was 15 years ago. My grandmother said that anyone who sees Hachishakusama is fated to die within a few days. The whole story sounded crazy, and I didn't know what to believe. When my grandfather returned, he brought a woman with him. She introduced herself as Kasan and handed me a small, crumpled piece of paper. "Take this and keep it with you," she said. Then she and my grandfather went upstairs to do something, while my grandmother stayed with me in the kitchen. I needed to go to the bathroom and my grandmother followed me. She didn't even let me close the door. I was terrified by everything that was happening. After a while, my grandfather and Kasan took me upstairs to a bedroom. The windows were covered with newspapers covered in strange old writing. In each corner of the room was a small bowl of salt, and in the middle stood a little Buddha statue on a wooden box beside a light blue bucket. "What's the bucket for?" I asked. "That's your toilet," my grandfather said. Kasan sat me on the bed and said, "The sun will set soon. Listen carefully. You must stay in this room until tomorrow morning. No matter what happens, don't leave this room until 7 a.m. Your grandparents won't call or talk to you before then. Remember, do not open the door for any reason." She said they would tell my parents what was happening. Her tone was so grave that all I could do was nod. "You must do exactly what Kasan says," my grandfather added, "and never let go of the paper she gave you. If anything happens, pray and lock the door." Then they left. I locked the door behind them, turned on the TV, and tried to distract myself. But I was too anxious. I couldn't eat the snacks my grandmother had left. I felt trapped, miserable, and terrified. Eventually, I fell asleep. When I woke up, it was past 1 a.m. Suddenly, I heard tapping on the window. My blood ran cold. I tried to tell myself it was just the wind or a tree branch. I turned up the TV volume to drown it out. Finally, it stopped. Then I heard my grandfather's voice. "Are you okay, kiddo?" he said. "If you're scared, I can come in and keep you company." I smiled and was about to unlock the door, but then froze. The voice was my grandfather's, but something was off. I couldn't say what, but my instinct screamed that it wasn't him. "What are you doing?" he said again. "You can open the door now." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the salt in the bowls turning black. I backed away from the door, shaking. I fell to my knees before the Buddha statue, clutching the paper tightly and praying desperately, "Please save me from Hachishakusama." I trembled uncontrollably. Then the knocking started again. I kept praying, half crying, all through the night. By morning, all 4 bowls of salt had turned completely black. I looked at the clock. It was 7 a.m. I carefully opened the door. My grandmother and Kasan were standing outside waiting for me. My grandmother burst into tears. "Thank God you're alive," she said. I went downstairs and was shocked to see my parents in the kitchen. My grandfather said, "Hey, hurry, we have to go." Outside, a large black van was waiting. Several men from the village stood around whispering, "That's the boy." They put me in the middle seat of the van, surrounded by 8 men. Kasan sat in the front. One man beside me said, "You're in trouble, kid, but we'll protect you. Keep calm, close your eyes, and don't open them until we're safe." My grandfather drove the lead car, and my father followed behind. When everyone was ready, the convoy started moving slowly, maybe 20 km/h, even slower at times. After a while, Kasan muttered, "This is where it'll get tough," and began chanting prayers. Then I heard it again. I gripped the paper tightly. I couldn't help but peek out the window. I saw a white dress fluttering in the wind. She was there, Hachishakusama. She was running alongside the van, keeping up effortlessly. Then she bent down and looked inside the window. "No!" I gasped. The man beside me shouted, "Close your eyes!" I squeezed them shut as tightly as I could and clutched the paper. Then came the knocking, tapping on all the windows. Everyone in the van tensed up. They couldn't see or hear her voice, but they heard the knocking. Kassan's chanting grew louder and louder, almost like she was shouting. The air inside the van was suffocating. Finally, the knocking stopped and the voice was gone. Kassan turned around and said, "I think we're safe now." Everyone sighed in relief. The van pulled over and the men got out. They transferred me to my parents' car. My mother hugged me tightly, tears streaming down her face. My father and grandfather thanked the men who had helped. Kassan came to my window and told me to open my hand. The paper she'd given me was pitch black. "You're safe now," she said, "but just in case, keep this new one for a while." She handed me a fresh piece of paper. Then we went straight to the airport. My grandfather stayed until our plane took off safely. When we were in the air, my parents finally relaxed. My father said he had heard about Hachishakusama before. Years ago, one of his friends had been targeted by her and vanished without a trace. He said that others had survived too, but only by leaving Japan forever. Once she chooses you, you can never return. She always targets children because they are dependent on adults, which makes it easy for her to trick them by mimicking their parents' voices. That's why all the men in the van were my relatives, to confuse her and slow her down. That's also why I had to stay locked in that room overnight. My father said the old Jizo statues had been broken. That's how she escaped. I got chills, but was grateful to finally be home safe. That was over 10 years ago. I haven't seen my grandparents since. A few weeks later, I tried calling them. It had been too long. Over the years, I tried to convince myself it was just a story, some elaborate prank. But sometimes I'm not so sure. 2 years ago, my grandfather passed away. When he got sick, he wouldn't let me visit, and he left strict instructions that I couldn't attend his funeral. I was devastated. A few days ago, my grandmother called. She said she'd been diagnosed with cancer. She missed me and wanted to see me one last time before she died. "Can I come, Grandma?" I asked. "Is it safe now?" "It's been 10 years, dear," she said. "It's all in the past. You've grown up. Everything's fine now." "But what about Hachishakusama?" I asked. There was silence on the other end. Then, in a deep, male voice, I heard, "Pooh."